Welcome to Linux Saloon, a place to discuss tech, open source, and where Linux is always on tap. Each show will have a talk about Linux projects, such as a Linux distribution or could be a BSD distribution. We haven't done one of those yet this year. Desktop environment or application. We also chat about the news or any variety of topics from the community. Anything that is Linux tech and open source related is on the table for discussion. I'm Nate, Linux fitness and vintage tech enthusiast with an almost unhealthy obsession with the OpenSUSE project. And with me today, I've got a face we haven't seen in a long time. Jason Starbuck, got Colin, Jinda, Eric, Cruz, Eris, and Terry. How is everybody on this very first episode of 2024?
Doing well. How are you?
Good, yeah, good, yeah.
I have the only thing I could complain about is it's really cold right now. I think Jinda probably knows because he's probably colder than I am because he lives in the I live on the edge of the tundra. He lives in the tundra.
Yeah, I just on the other side of the tundra. It's only 28 degrees Fahrenheit, so it's not that bad.
Oh, that's not too bad.
And we're melting over here.
Yeah,
we're absolutely melting over here. It's 80 Fahrenheit already at 9 in the morning.
80 degrees Fahrenheit?
Yeah.
At
Right.
9 in the morning?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
That sounds awesome.
Well, it's cold for Florida. It's 48 degrees.
So it's 18 here in southwestern Michigan. 18 degrees Fahrenheit. Frankenstein.
Wow. That's cold.
It is. But what can you do? It's the way it goes when you live in Michigan, I guess. I don't know why I live here. I keep thinking about Florida, the weather's nice, but things are expensive. Too many people moving down there. Everyone's like fleeing to Florida, and I don't think I want to deal with that.
We ran out of room anyway.
Yeah, that's right. I have relatives that I can go visit when I feel like it in the Winter Haven area, not far from Legoland. So that's what I'd probably do.
Yep.
And then I could probably make it to Sarasota and go see Eric if he'd be, not hiding from me.
We could meet in Dinosaur Land.
Ooh, that sounds fun.
Yeah. You guys, Disney's only 2 hours from me, so.
Your kids would like that.
Dinosaur Land?
It's neat.
So I'm thinking maybe totally off topic already. We just started. Maybe spring break. Well, be sure to do the straw poll. If you have, if you want to participate, one great way to kind of steer the conversation a little bit is to throw your hat in the ring What does that mean? Throw your hat in the pool, in the circle, whatever, on whatever straw poll we have. It kind of kicks off the conversation. So I would love it if you did vote. It is anonymous. We don't track things there, and nor would I care to because I don't care. But if you do have a reply, please do that too. You can send a message and you can make that anonymous or whatnot. It's up to you. So on the docket for today, this is basically an open mic style format. We're just going to talk about, it's a new year. Every time that calendar turns over, we get a new number at the end of the year. We like to talk about like plans or objectives from this year. Although I think Friday, yesterday, or was it maybe Thursday, Friday Eve, was like quitter day. So like if you had a New Year's resolution, you'd have quit it already by the 11th or 12th or something like that. So hopefully you haven't done that. And the way I see it in tech, you can pick it back up at any time. So anyway, so yeah, the thing we're going to talk about is basically kind of what are your goals or maybe ambitions or exciting things in tech. That's what we'll basically talk about and so forth. But first, before we get to that, what have you been doing in Linux and tech? Colin, was it Colin? Yeah, no. Who was it saying that they were? I don't even know now. Someone was saying something about they were doing something with Linux Mint, and I didn't.
Jason.
Jason.
That was Jason.
The face we haven't seen in many months, maybe a year. I don't know. What is this adventure in Linux Mint that you're having?
Well, I tried to install Linux Mint on my 2013 MacBook Pro. And during the installation process, it found the Wi-Fi drivers and all the the proper drivers and stuff for connectivity. No problem. As soon as it was installed, no connectivity whatsoever. It wouldn't find the FireWire ports for the so I could connect the dongle to use Ethernet. It wouldn't do Wi-Fi. So I ended up tethering it to my phone through Bluetooth and using the internet from my phone to be able to go through and re-download the proper Broadcom drivers for that. The issue was something to do with Broadcom. Apparently, it's been in the Mint forums and stuff in the past.
Yeah, Broadcom is an issue, and that's a totally separate thing. It's work related. But that's another conversation.
Yep. So eventually I got the for whatever reason I've got the dongle to work so that I could get Ethernet, but I still couldn't get Wi-Fi. And then finally today, after tinkering with it on hanging out with the Mac guys and stuff like that, talking with them, I got it to finally got the Wi-Fi up and running.
What was the solution for that?
The solution was what I did was I updated to the latest version of Mint, and then the latest version of Mint said, "Oh, by the way, you've got this particular device and it needs this particular driver. Would you like to download it?" So eventually Mint decided to fix itself apparently, and said, "Hey, this is the driver you need." Even though I downloaded the driver and installed it, and still didn't like it when I did it. But it could have been because it was from Broadcom's site. Who knows? But if it worked,
is this a machine that you've had that happen before with other distros, or was this a new?
No, this is the first time I've installed Linux on it. It was I just decided not to go the OpenCore route to get a more later, quote unquote, jerry-rigged later version of Mac OS on it.
Gotcha.
It's like, you know what? Excuse me. So I was like, you know what? Heck with it. Just gonna throw Mint on it, and yeah, that was an adventure. And it was funny because the 2009 classic Mac Pro I have over here, the Cheese Grater Mac Pro, which is older, and it still has Wi-Fi and it has all that kind of stuff on it too, but it probably has a different version of it. Everything worked fine. Not a problem.
Yeah. Well, I know.
I wonder if it's because it's old.
Well, the 2009 was older.
It didn't have the drivers and.
Yeah,
well,
could have been. Yeah, it was Broadcom though. I think that was the issue.
Strange. Yeah.
This release of Mint has the 5.15 kernel, but I think they also do have some hardware enablement stuff. But I guess maybe that's just not a common enough system, or like you said, once it finally recognized that you needed it, it prompted you and although if you weren't connected, that would have been an issue, right? Like. We noticed you need a driver, but you can't actually download it, so oh well.
Yeah. If you're on Wi-Fi only, you're in trouble, aren't you?
Yeah. But that's I've always wondered. Luckily, I guess I don't have any systems that need those extra drivers, so I've always wondered like how well those work. That process. So that's cool.
Yeah, the drivers from the website apparently didn't work, but finally. It's a Ubuntu-based driver, so it wasn't the actual Broadcom driver. So it was one that apparently somewhere along the line was finally put into the distro itself, and it worked. It picked it right up and said, "Hey, here you go." And then I installed it, and the update.
That was after an update, did you say? That was after an update?
As soon as I went to the newest version of Mint. It was a 23.1.
Oh, the newest version. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What was the one you're installing? Was that the 21.2 you were installing first?
It was 22.1, I think it was. I think it was 22.
Yeah. 21.2. I think it's 21.3 now, isn't it?
Yeah, 21.3 is the latest release.
Yeah, 21.3, yeah. So that was 21.2, right?
21.2, yeah. Something like that. One of those versions.
Numbers.
I'm glad you was able to get the Linux Mint on that MacBook Pro. That gives me hope. I have 2 older MacBook Pros myself, and one day, if Mac OS X decides not to be a good idea on them, then I would definitely look into using Linux on there as a way to extend that lifestyle. The lifespan of machines.
And that way you're browsing safely because you got security updates and all that good stuff. That's the reason I put Mint on this thing is because it's a 2013, so it stopped at it stopped at like 4 or 5 versions of or more of the OS, and you can get OpenCore, Martin Lowe's OpenCore on there, and make it so that it will upgrade to other versions, but they're not always stable.
Oh, that was your concern, because that's what I was going to say. That's something I've considered myself with my
Yeah,
22 machine.
I did the open core on the 2009 Mac Pro, and it worked fine for a while. Then all of a sudden, it started getting all wonky, doing all kinds of crazy things. So I switched to the Linux on that as well, just more for stability than anything else.
Do you think it was the particular version of Mac OS that you used on there that made that the problem, or?
It could have been. I mean, I think at the time it was, gosh, what was it? Big Sur, I think I put on there.
Mhm.
It was a while ago, and it worked fine for a while. But then what happened was, I think, is I tried to switch from a spinner to a SSD, and when I tried to redo the open core, something broke in it.
First
So
off, I'm really, the fact that you were using a spinning disc on that thing is impressive to me
well,
because
it
I
came
know,
with spinning discs.
yeah, I understand. But like that's one of the first things I did with my 2010 when I got it. I was like, "Ooh, let me get the best out of this machine." I put the SSD in there. Come to find out, I can go from 4 gigs to 16 gigs in that old machine, which is what I did. I upgraded everything, and then I put it up from wherever operating system was on, whatever version was on there before, and brought it up to Catalina. And I kind of have it. I mean,
I
it's
think
on.
that's what I was on, was Catalina on the laptop. This thing was like, it was like El Capitan or something. That was the highest one because it's 2009. But
Was
yeah,
it one of those hybrid drives where it was a spinning disk, but it had like a certain amount of no?
this was
Okay, because I know
this
they
was
had those
older.
for a
This
while.
was older
SSHD.
before that came out.
I have
Yeah.
that in my T420 actually,
Do
and
you? Yeah.
that's gonna be changing because I feel
Yeah.
like I can get a speed boost if I just put a regular SSD.
The laptop already had an SSD in it. It was
Oh, okay.
a 500 SSD that Apple had in there, and has 16 gigs of RAM. That was originally, I want to say it was 8 gigs of RAM, and then just had spinners in it. And we updated to 32 gigs of RAM, and then put a SSD in. It still has the SSD in there now, obviously running the Mint with the 32 gigs. And then it has, I want to say it was for storage devices. I think it has, I want to say 20 terabytes in there.
Sheesh.
Wow.
So
Wow.
I use that for the file server for and what do you call that thing?
NAS.
The backup thing for Macs.
Time Machine.
Thank you, Time Machine.
Okay.
Because the Silicon Macs don't really need a Time Machine too much. I don't really know if that's even on there. I didn't even look. But on the ARM-based ones,
I would guess it is. I mean, that's pretty standard. If you're making changes to documents and stuff, I think people expect that.
Yeah, so I was never really a fan of Time Machine per se, but so what I do
It
is
helped me with a customer once because they at least had that set up, and they had ended up deleting a bunch of stuff, and they were like panicking, and they had that installed and was able to flip back and grab it. So yeah.
Okay, yep, there's Time Machine. Yep, maybe I should turn that on and get
So
that over.
now that you have Linux Mint on there, I mean, how does that affect your workflow on the actual machine in comparison to the Mac OS X? Like, how do you compare the two?
Well, I mean, I'm more of a tinkerer than doing too much with the stuff anyway. But the one thing I liked about the Linux machine is that it sees the Macs right away, like my other Macs, like the actual M1 Mac. As soon as I connected to the network, poof, not a problem. Windows, Windows, yeah, go away. Don't want to talk to you. That's Linux. So I have to connect to the the IP address to do that, and then mount that, and then I have connection. But so this and that talk with the Mac perfectly. That's why I'm using the one with all the space over the classic Mac Pro as a kind of a backup thing to have a service running that sends data over there. It's kind of like a Time Machine, but not Time Machine. And just to keep all my files up to date. And then I have my Windows-based server that I keep all my Windows stuff up to date.
Does the touchpad work the same as what it would in the Mac, or not really? The touchpad?
Good question.
Yeah, the touchpad works fine. I found out that in Linux Mint with the touchpad, you have to use, if you want to right click, it took me a while to figure this out. I kind of figured out by trial and error. Is how like a lot of the gestures are two fingers, 3 fingers, or whatever. I did that with the. I found out that you have to put in the bottom right-hand corner, like when you're gonna tap to do a right click, you have to use 2 fingers in order for the
Right.
right click to notice. So other than that, I mean, everything works. The only thing, like I said, the only thing I had a problem with the Mac, the laptop, was the connectivity. Everything else was beautiful. It ran great. It updates fine. It runs smooth. It runs cooler than when it was with Mac OS, because with Mac OS it had a tendency of running a little warm. But with the Linux, it runs a little cool because it doesn't use it's a milder OS, so to speak. It doesn't keep things running in the background as much as old Mac did and that kind of
Oh,
stuff.
see, I'm really glad to hear that it's actually working better with Linux versus supposedly an operating system it's designed to be for in the first place. You would think all that will be tweaked out and it's working at its highest potential. But to see it with Linux Mint, I mean that really makes me happy, because you're seeing it's almost like you're getting an upgrade just by changing the operating system on there.
Absolutely. I was barely using it because one, it was, an outdated version of Mac, so I didn't really want to keep it connected too much. And then I would tinker with it here, tinker with it there, and then I threw Mint on there, and I bring it with me when I go places, and go upstairs, sit on the couch, tinker with it because it's connect. Now that I got the Wi-Fi working, before I had, thankfully we have a 100-foot Ethernet cable that goes upstairs. There's a 3-story house and we have computers everywhere, and so we run cables. But anywho, so so I mean it works. Now it really works. It's great. And it was something that's fun to tinker with. And I mean, if you have more than one older Mac laptop that you want to, and you're curious about it, I mean, test it out on one.
So, have you heard of the YouTube channel? I think it's Action Retro.
Yes, Sean. Yep.
So he has his little Mac as his little avatar thing, like a Mac Classic. Mm-hmm. So I watched a lot of his stuff, and he had this is some time ago, but he put I was in like a 2012 or 13 MacBook Air. He put Ubuntu on it, and so he did. But I think he did synthetic benchmarks too. But what stood out to me was the benchmark he used was Minecraft, and so he played Minecraft on it with Mac OS, and he played Minecraft on it with Ubuntu, and it ran very smooth or a lot smoother anyway, under Ubuntu than it did under Mac OS. So I thought that was quite interesting. And he said basically he could breathe new life into old Mac hardware, which I think the MacBook Air is pretty cool. So, I mean,
ironically enough, I'm sorry.
Oh, I just thought it was just neat to see that it was a step up in performance as well with that MacBook Air, which was a surprise to me.
With Linux, that's that's one of the key things about Linux is like the bigger like Windows always processes running in the background. Macs there's always lots of process. I mean Linux has process running in the background too, but they tend to eat less CPU and less memory than what the other two operating systems have running in the background. And so, like I said, with the overheating that I was having with the Mac, the laptop, even with the desktop, we used to call this thing a space heater, the 2009 Mac Pro, because this thing got hot when we were using it, like especially in the Florida summers.
Oh, sure.
But now it barely puts out any heat running Mint. It's on 24/7. Occasionally you'll hear when the hard drives spin up because it's something's getting sent to it or whatever. But other than that, it's amazing the difference in between switching OSs from Mac OS to Linux, even with the native versions that come on them that should run fine. It's like night or day. Plus the cats like the Mac Pro is got a perfect spot to lay on.
It is. I love that case. I have an original one was given to me years ago, but sadly it died. So I just
I wish you could use the case for any computer.
Yes. Thank you. So that case is phenomenal.
I'm curious. Did it always run hot with Mac OS, or was it only once the update started dwindling down? Always.
Well, at least for me, always. When I had the the classic Mac Pro. I got it. I cleaned it up because it was sitting in the closet for years. At an old job that I had, they found 8 of them in a closet that they didn't even remember they had because it was from a imaging project they were doing way back in the day. So they pulled them out and they were like, I don't know what we're gonna do with these things. We don't need them. So I bought one for one computer and 2 monitors for $200. Took it home, got everything installed. Noticed it was running hot. So I took off the heat sinks, repasted everything, did all that good stuff, cleaned it all up, and it still ran warm. The issue is the north bridge on these computers always tend to run hot for whatever reason. So, and I used it for years, just, with the way it came, and then I tried OpenCore, no change. Throw Linux on there. I've only had Linux on there for a few weeks now, and yeah, night or day temperatures. Like it's crazy how cool the CPUs are running because it's dual CPU.
That's good story for Linux anyway, I must say, because normally the Mac system or the operating system is normally tweaked for the actual computer itself. So maybe there was something not quite right with the hardware or the way they did their operating system back then. Maybe, I don't know. That's very interesting, but good story.
Yeah. I can tell you the ARM processor, because it's Intel. That's another part of the problem. Possibly it's because it's not one of their PowerPC processors or ARM-based processors. It's Intel, so that could be why it was running a little bit hotter. Like when they switch back to the ARM processors, like the M1s and stuff like that, these things they generate almost zero heat.
You're right. Okay. Yeah. All right.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
it is.
I like the resurrection of old machines with Linux. I still like that. That's one of my favorite stories. I can hear those all day.
Yep. So all the the cores right now are running at about 40 degrees, about 42 to 44 degrees on there, and it's normally a lot hotter back in the old days.
That's fantastic.
I'll check my temperatures.
I love BashTop. BashTop's one of my favorite programs.
What is it?
BashTop. It's kind of like HTOP, but a little more robust.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Because I'm talking to you guys. Sorry.
It's a system.
No.
So I'm talking to you guys on a 2015 MacBook Pro that's running. What is it? I forgot. Anyway, Mavericks. No, not Mavericks. Monterey. I'm sorry. Monterey. Okay. And my temperature is 162 degrees, according to Mac Fan, whatever.
GPU fans. Yep.
The Mac Fan app is showing me.
Yeah, that's
162 degrees. Yeah, that's pretty
toasty.
And that's. I mean, it doesn't always go that high, but it that's pretty normal. And so, I'm familiar with what you're talking about as far as having that extra amount of heat in the machine. And so I've gotten used to using the Apple, stuff.
Ecosystem.
Yeah, I like the ecosystem itself. I'm just trying to find a way to make things happen similarly within the world of Linux, because that's honestly what I prefer above all else.
Yeah. I mean, I use everything. I have two Windows machines. I have currently 3 machines running Linux. Then, one of those Windows machines doesn't count as a work machine. That's for work. And then I have the Mac. And I used to work for Apple, so that's how I got into the Mac ecosystem.
Company man. I like it.
Yep. And I mean, their ecosystem is really good when the iPads, the phones, and the how everything, the continuity for all those systems is great.
Yeah, until you lose a phone or something, and then then it becomes an absolute nightmare.
No, not if you know what you're doing. Being the inside guy.
Not really. I mean, this what is it? When you have to connect to or log into your Apple ID, and they've made it in a way now that you can't log into it unless you got your phone or your device or another device. I mean, if you don't have that, you're pretty much out of luck. I mean, this is what happened
as long as
to my
that's if you don't know
phone.
your password. There is a way of doing it. You download the support app onto the devices, and then what you do is you log in under you go to somebody else's phone with a that has that support app on it. You have them download that, and then you can get back into your account.
Didn't work either. It didn't work, and because my father-in-law, my son lost his phone last year in Bali, but my father-in-law lost his phone at a shopping centre, pretty much local, quite a few years ago, and we actually tracked the phone down because I logged into his Apple ID, and we actually found the phone, right? But that they didn't have this two-factor authentication or whatever they use now.
Authentication,
and it was quite easy to track the phone. But now, if you've lost the phone now, unless you got your phone, it makes it really difficult. So I don't know.
Well, it shouldn't be.
I mean,
all you have to do is disconnect the phone from your. If you know your password, and you know that information, you just go to iCloud.com, log in, remove the phone from your account, and you don't have to worry about that issue anymore.
No, because when I try to log in, it sends the information to the phone. And you can't do nothing. That's what was happening with me. The information gets sent to that device that's lost. It's pretty much
iCloud.com, because it shouldn't ask you that on
yes.
iCloud.com.
I'm pretty sure that's. I tried everything. I remember I was just at my wit's end, just trying to log into my son's ID, and it was just a nightmare. I looked up. I searched every possible thing I could to try and get in, and it just wouldn't let me. Needed the device. And I just thought, this is just crazy. This is an extra level of security that's just gone mad because you need to have the actual device that you've lost. So I just thought that was a little bit crazy. Maybe it's me. I don't know. But I mean, I've been able to do it in the past and I just found it madness.
Well, what can you do? The age of where everything has to be so secure that it's impossible to get access. Although the most secure system is one you don't have access to, so I guess there's that.
I understand security, but I don't know. Sometimes I think it just gets a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah, with the problem with the Apple, the reason they got so crazy with the security is the sheer number of devices that they have out there, and the sheer number of, like, you go to eBay. I wouldn't buy a phone off eBay if it was free, just to go say, hey, send it to me pay for shipping, because it's going to be 9 out of 10 times it's going to be activation locked. You're not going to be able to set it up. It's going to be bricked just because it's stolen. So that is one of the reasons why Apple's so stringent on the security, is because they don't want people to be able to just get access to a phone that's been stolen.
I mean, it makes sense.
Yep.
Well, I think it's about time we move on to the straw poll. Jason, thank you very much for being here. I appreciate you coming back. I don't know if we scared you off. If my lack of showering was an issue that you just stopped showing up. But I am glad that you made it back, and I appreciate your adventures in Linux Mint on a MacBook. What year was that MacBook?
2013.
2013, just the other year.
Mm-hmm.
He's been gone for a long time, and he comes back with an awesome story of Linux Mint on the MacBook. It's just awesome.
That was great.
Don't leave for another year or whatever, and not come back for.
I think it was actually longer than a year.
I think it was longer than a year. But on that, if you have not done the straw poll yet, there's still time to squeeze it in. So just hop on that. It's one question about how much you donated to free and open source organizations in 2023. Eris, I don't know if you want to take it from there. If you're ready to rock and roll.
So the question for this week was, how much did you donate to free and open source organizations in 2023? Let me refresh one last time.
I won't vote twice this time.
And the number one response was $151 or more, with 22%.
Wow.
Followed by 18%, 101 to 150, and followed by that's 17% for the second one, and the third one was 13% unable to donate any amount, and followed by 8% unwilling to donate any amount. After that is the following three are 8%, 41 to 60, 81 to 100, Tux Penguin, and the remaining are 4% each, $1 to $5, 21 to 30, and 61 to 80. Nobody picked 6 to 10, nobody picked 11 to 20, 31 to 40 either wasn't picked. There was no other, and there was no replies to the poll.
I think I donated more last year than I have any previous year, because Katie had that big push to try, and if you donate a certain amount, they'll put your name on something. And I thought, I want to put Cubicle Nate on something, so that's why I did it. Not a good reason, but I use Plasma all the time, and so it seems like, I have good reason to support that project. So I do find it interesting that unwilling to donate any amount made the list. It seems a little surprising to me. But I mean, it's it's your choice. But just kind of surprises me a little bit. And I understand unable to donate for sure. What do you think, Eric?
Yeah, I think I had the same response where it was just sort of like, unwilling seems a little harsh. What if it was something that was really important to you? I mean, I don't know. I don't like sort of unwilling seems like a very sort of cut and dried, like under no circumstance would I ever give a 1 red cent to any, it's just like, really? I don't know. That's, yeah, I mean, I think that, as I've said many times in the past, I think that open source could be fully funded and then some if all of the companies making revenue using open source software were to give back even a very small percentage of the revenue they generate by using that software. I think it would be sort of the most fair way to fund everything. Sure, I mean, it's nice when end users can donate to their pet projects or, help out, but certainly people and companies who are making actual money off of that software, that to me, the most sort of virtuous sort of circle there is that, the people producing the software are underpinning or supporting your ability to generate revenue, which is then allowing you to donate back to that project and so on and so forth. And it doesn't take a lot. I think a very small handful of businesses giving a fairly modest amount back would constitute quite a large amount of money, especially for software that's very important and underpinning a lot of things. And I think you'd see less of that sort of burnout if someone who makes a key piece of software for networking, for example, just, for the sake of argument, if that is one of those pieces of software that everybody uses in their cloud operations and, Google and Amazon and everybody's, needs that to provide their $1 billion of services, billions of dollars of services. And the guy, the one person or two people or small team of people providing the effort behind that software were to actually be able to do that as a living, I think that would be pretty incredible, and it would attract, really, seasoned, qualified people, and I imagine you'd see some pretty incredible open source projects happening if that were more of a standard thing. But, I guess if there's no, I don't see the incentive to me is that you need to, if you're relying on that software, doesn't it make sense that you want it to be healthy, that you want it to be there, you want the people who are creating it to be satisfied with what they're doing and continue to be engaged and interested. And if all that takes is a little bit of money, like Come on, that's
Well,
easy.
I think. Sorry, no.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say that looking at it from another perspective, the person or the people who put unwilling to donate could be the very people that are putting so much of their time and effort into free and open source already.
That's a good point.
So they're probably unwilling to donate because they're donating their time. So that could be another perspective from that what they've selected there.
You know what, Colin?
Yeah.
I like that. I'm going to go with that because I want to believe the best in people, and that's exactly why they put that in there. That's just what I'm going to believe, even if it's not true.
There you go.
I would rather
Even if it's not true.
I would rather err on the side of positivity, of they're unwilling to donate because they invest so much already of their time, which is worth far more than, $5 than anything else.
Yeah. Well,
No, it's good. I like it.
Stick with positivity.
Well, in a negative world, it's good to be positive. Sometimes I feel like that dog that's like sipping on coffee or whatever when everything's on fire around him. Yeah, everything's fine. But yeah, I think the projects that I rely on, obviously OBS. So I do donate to that project because I use it at least weekly. And so I do, I'm a Patreon of that. And then I do an annual donation to the KDE project. And then I do, there's some other like little things too, like FreeCAD. I support that as well, even though I don't use it right now.
You still have a license to SLE?
I do. That's not really donating though. I don't count that. I am supporting a corporation, which I guess does support, but to me that's just not donating.
Right.
I guess
well, you don't have to do it. I think that's
right.
kind
I don't
of
have to do that. That's true.
Yeah.
So there's that. But actually, I think it expired. I forgot to renew it. So
that's one I haven't donated to is OBS. I've done KDN Live and Thunderbird, so I use them a lot. But yeah, OBS is another one. So my next donation might be OBS actually, because they do some really good work. That's a great tool.
Yeah,
it's a great cross-platform tool. I don't know if it's available in Mac, but definitely Windows and Linux. Does that work? Is that available in Mac? OBS?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is. Is it? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think actually today, and I could be wrong on this, but last time I checked, English is hard for me. I think the flexibility of manipulating sound is probably better in Linux than either Mac or Windows at this point, with Pipewire and everything else. So that's something.
I think the granularity. I agree with that. With the ability to be very specific. Like I was playing around with Bluetooth in Windows 11 and pretty disappointed in like the lack of specificity and like, Anyway, yeah, I donate to, a couple things. I don't really use OBS anymore, so they're more like utilities and little like esoteric things. And it's all really more or less a token, just sort of a gesture of like, hey, there are some people out here that care and are willing to give you a couple bucks here and there. Some developers make it difficult, smaller single person projects and stuff, like they just don't put the effort into having Patreon or some sort of a Ko-fi or something like that, which I understand because it's a whole thing to deal with. So
right. Yeah, it's true. And I think I guess if they make it hard, that doesn't help the cause at all, I think. Eris, did you have any thoughts on that you wanted to kick out there? I mean, you created the poll, so I was kind of curious if you had anything you were thinking about kind of wrapped around that.
It was the beginning of the year. I thought about putting it at the end of the year, maybe to incentivize people to donate. But then we had the other polls, I guess. As far as like the donations, I guess there's no shame in any amount you donate. I think whatever you can is fine. I think part of the problem sometimes we like to complain a lot about Linux and open source, but we ourselves are not willing to donate to the projects, and that's a big problem.
If I donate, can I complain?
Yes.
You can always complain, but it'd be
can
better if you
complain
complain with
more.
money.
But will it help?
You can
Well, no,
complain
my-
with the exclamation mark.
I think it's all right to complain, but I think it's how you complain. It's like, if it's
Be constructive in your complaints.
Constructive criticism. That's right.
yeah, exactly. So
Yeah, I can complain. I want to vent. I want to vent about calamaris. Because I spin distros from Easy Archos, as I've mentioned quite a few times before. And there's a new and with the download of the Easy Archer distro that I use to spin up the ISO, if his Calamaris version is different, then I have to rebuild it. That's not a problem. But the new 3.3, every time I get to the end of the install, it fails. So I don't know whether I'm doing it wrong or whether there's something wrong with the current version of Calamaris. I don't know. Tried to look it up, but that's frustrating because you got to rebuild it, respin it, and then install it, and it fails. I don't know how many times I've done that. So there might be something wrong with the current version of Calamaris. I don't know. All the experts will probably know how to tweak it, but I got no idea. But anyway, that's my vent for the day.
You're allowed to vent.
Yeah.
A calamari's vent. Wait, isn't that like a tasty
Installer?
No. Was it?
Yeah, no. It's it's a tasty seed.
Squid.
It's squid that's
Squid.
fried, I think.
Yeah, calamari.
Octopus. The old calamaris.
Love it.
Oh.
Yummy.
A little bit of butter garlic sauce, and it's can't get much better
Butter
than
garlic
that.
sauce. Bit of batter.
Oh,
You're gonna make me order it right now.
Sounds like I joined at the right
Just
time
saying.
to talk about calamari.
Yeah.
Still early enough.
Yeah. It's
Good to see you, Joe.
yeah, it's good to see you.
all. Yeah,
And also-
it's been a long time.
Also, thank you, Ron, for
I
joining.
always jump in, but
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you did.
yeah,
Glad,
I couldn't resist out hearing you guys talking about different apps and stuff. I wanted to share something with you too that just came up with me. For a long time I've been telling you that I really would like to try to get away from using QuickBooks.
Mm-hmm.
And I got a real motivator coming up this year because for the first time we finally had the update from 2015 last year to I think it was 2022 or whatever it was. And it was a hard pill to swallow. It was over $800, and
Oof.
with tax, it was $799. And for as often as I use it, it's like, I really, because what we do, we don't need it constantly like I used to when I was contracting. Well, I got a notification they're raising it $150.
Wow.
Which means it's going to be almost
$1,000
now for this year.
Now,
So
is that because this is the installed version versus the online? Like they're trying to push everybody to go to online?
Well, funny you asked that because yes, it is the desktop version. You could pay for that, believe it or not, monthly too, but they do usually try to get you up front. But technically that's considered a subscription as well. And I did shut off all the internet stuff on there because every time I was trying to log in, it wouldn't let me log in until I gave it extra permissions to, and different things that it wanted from me. It's really been a nuisance. So here's my point, and I guess for anybody that might be listening in the community, I have been whining and dragging my feet for a long time to really learn GNU Cache. I think it could work well. One thing I haven't done, I understand you can import a QIF file, which is a QuickBooks file, over to it, and I'm going to try that. As much video searching as I've done out there, they talk about setting up stuff from scratch, but there's not really a lot of good, intuitive, informative tutorials out there on somebody who's really familiar with this on how, if you want to migrate over from QuickBooks, the actual process and what's involved, if you've got your accounts all set up, will it transfer them all? Do you have to set them all out? All that stuff. And, $950 before tax is a pretty good motivator to want to try to really figure this out. I just don't want to be rash about it. I may have to swallow that pill again this year until I can work my way through it. But I do know that a few years ago, I had somebody that was talking about having me build them a Linux computer, and it was a business, a town or two north of me here. And she swore up and down. She said it has to run Linux because I use GNU Cache exclusively. So when I started thinking about it, because how I've done things with my accounting is I back it up on my USB drive. I take it to the accountant, they import it, and then they make their changes. I don't do anything for a couple of weeks or whatever, or I could do an accountant's version, but it's just easier to do it that way. I trust them with what they're getting because it is local. And then they do their adjustments. I get the drive back with their changes, and then I just import it and it's done. Versus having to manually enter in all the changes. But, they obviously have people that come with spreadsheets and different types of things. And I was thinking if I could really figure this out, maybe he'd be open to using that too for somebody like me or whatever. He's a smaller accountant. But even if he wasn't, at least, I'd have to believe he'd be able to, I mean, even if it was just for me, I can't believe it would be that invasive for him, if he can look at it and see. And I don't know what to do at this point, but it's very frustrating because that's the one thing, honestly, aside from the occasional, I've got my soft plan that I was using, I'm designing my own kitchen here now again. But other than that, or maybe one Windows game, that's the only thing that's really got me tethered to Windows right now. Otherwise, I don't really use this computer, and it's the one app that I would really like to use to get away from Windows. And so I do think that it's come a long way. There's a lot of, it seems like they're constantly updating, like it's up to 5.5 something or whatever now or whatever, that kind of thing. So I was wondering if anybody else in here had any thoughts on that.
This might not be helpful, which most of the things I say probably aren't. But the software that I have been using for managing like finances and whatnot it's called Scrooge. It's very easy to use. It helps me with like keeping tracking my expenses. Now it is Qt based, so I don't know if you use how that would work on your desktop, but I like it. It's simple, and it's easy to to very quickly punch your stuff in, and so I like it. I don't know if it's good for like business use as much, but it works. It works for me, and it's enough for me to like track my expenses that are Cubicle Nate related, that whole thing, and then
sure.
So that's basically how I use it. And some of my more personal stuff, like my bank app, actually tracks that stuff for me and yells at me. So I have USAA, and that works really well for me. But anyway, so I haven't really used it so much for that, but like for tracking, other ventures, it's been pretty fantastic. So for what it's worth.
I've kind of resisted the online stuff, because I don't like the idea of not knowing where that kind of stuff's going, especially when you've got other people's information in there, like I used to have, credit cards, whatever, things like that, in which, I always purged it after a while. I mean, there's Home Bank, there's what's the other one with the KDE one, KMI, whatever.
Yeah,
Scrooge is based on that.
My Money. Scrooge is like a little bit, I would say, a little
Pay
bit
My
nicer.
Money, yeah. And Key My Money, I think there was, as much as it looked nice, there was a glitch with it or whatever. And I think that's also, I'm going to be truthful with you. If I was going to switch to anything and I trust your opinion, I'll look at the Scrooge one too, but GNU Cache seems to have the most stable reputation, I guess, if you want to say, for being used.
I use that one for many years too. So I like it. It uses like double accounting or something like that. It's a method of accounting where it's whatever, and that's fine and great. I think my biggest issue with that was I had a hard time pulling reports that I wanted. It wasn't easy for me to get the little nerdy numbers that I appreciate the most. And Scrooge gives that to me.
And I think they've imported or I'm saying wrong, incorporated some of that stuff in the newer versions now too. I don't know how long it's been since you've seen that, and I could compare it to what I'm using. I mean, typically if you're doing basically it's a money in, money out or whatever. And I know what you're talking about, the double accounting, because that's pretty much what ours are too. I do class tracking. I do all that stuff too. But when you're running basically an annual, report, that I'm sure it does, so yeah, but
Yeah.
I would have to think if he could work with Excel sheets, he would be able to work with this too.
Oh,
So
for
it's
sure.
just a
Yeah.
matter of having the desire to do it. So,
Now,
you know,
I do like my budgets and such just using LibreOffice Calc. I've got a pretty big spreadsheet with that stuff, and
yeah.
that's more general. That's more like just for budgeting and
hmm
and projecting and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But
To answer your question too, I've been on Linux Mint for a long time now. I'm
mhm.
on 21.2. I'm gonna wait a little bit longer till I bring it up to 21.3 because in looking at the release notes, I think there's still few little things they're working out with it, but it's been really, really good and really stable for the most part. I decided to go back, like I said, simple. So, um,
I just wanted to mention, Joe, that not a Linux guru guy in chat said he used to be a QuickBooks guru, but
okay.
he also mentioned that he converted over GNU Cache, but he thinks he may have started with a new file back in 2010.
Okay.
But then he said he recalls at least importing the accounts and lists in. So
Okay, I'll
that's in
look back in
chat.
the chat. I haven't been very good following the chat. I'll look at that. I see it. Okay.
It's good to come across somebody else that's used Linux. I know I've used Linux Mint since version 12. I've always maintained it on at least one of my machines, just out of, I guess you could say, solidarity, because when I started using it, I found the community to be very friendly. And so as a
Mhm.
result, I kind of stuck with it over the years, despite the ups and downs that may have been experienced. And so it's been my thing. And I'm still happy to have it as another one in my arsenal. Of course, I use Solus the most, but Linux Mint is also cool as well for me.
I want
Yeah.
to ask, if you don't mind, I didn't come in here to dominate the conversation, but these are things to think about. Again, I didn't know if I wanted the point raised that, for the people that are out there looking to do content, maybe this would have been a good thing for the GNU cache. But I had another issue too. Several months ago, my wife had cracked her hinge on her uh, ThinkPad, and I wasn't sure if the part was going to come in time. It was talking, it was coming from China. It was going to be probably a month and a half, and with her pulling on it, so I was worried about breaking the screen. So I bought her a Yoga, which is sitting on the shelf right now. She's just so used to the other one, and coincidentally, within 3 weeks, the other one came in, and then a week later, the part came in, and I fixed it in about 20 minutes. But the one thing I did is on the Yoga, it's a Yoga 7, I put Mint on there. Everything was running great until I closed the screen. And I went to bring it back up, and sometimes the screen would be it would be tinted, dark, like it was just an energy save mode or whatever. But the other thing that really was more annoying than that was you'd plug in, it uses a USB-C for charging now. Plug that in, it would do the same thing, and it wouldn't allow me to bring the hue up, so I had to reboot it or whatever. I put MX23 on it, and that runs like yesterday's. But I mean, it's absolutely phenomenal on there, and I think it's the perfect, because I wanted something. I thought, well, then I'm going to go Debian based because I don't want Snap. But what I've heard or been understanding with this 21.3, and I started wondering if this wasn't the issue with that, is that they are making or have made improvements with the fractional scaling, and wondered if maybe that wouldn't have possibly had something to do with it. Although you would think it'd be an energy thing that, like I said, you plug it in and boom, it went dim right away. That was the only issue that I've had on. I've put this on, I don't know how many computers, and actually I've so far migrated 2 people over this year to Linux right now, and Mint being one of them. So um, I do think Mint's making even more gains, but has anybody had that experience? That was my other question too, and I'll kind of
Is
be
that
quiet.
is that hibernation? Is it hibernation that goes into? Isn't
No, because I
hibern?
usually turn that off. I don't like hibernation going
Oh,
on
okay.
memory and stuff. Yeah, what I
Yeah,
usually
that's right.
do for my energy settings is I will leave where the monitor, if it's, especially if it's a laptop, after maybe, if it's on power, like it's on a plug, I'll let it go maybe even up to a half an hour before it would kind of dim itself down a percentage, and then the monitor turn off after an hour. If it's on battery, I'm not gonna let it go that long. Maybe I'll extend it to 10 or even
Right.
15 minutes at most for and then maybe 30 minutes before it shuts it off. And that seems to have worked out pretty well, but I never let it go into a sleep or hibernation mode like that. And I did put the battery, and that's one of the applets I like in here that's available in Mint is the, it's called, for short, they call it BAMS. I can't remember. It's battery, I don't know if it's administration monitoring system or something like that. And the nice thing about that is you can actually, which I think you could do the same thing in KDE as well, like in MX, where you could set alarms. And it works great for my wife because she loses track of how long she's on there. And she's like, feels like it was 5 minutes ago. And I look and she's been on for 3.5 hours, and it'll start beeping.
That
It'll
happens.
beep, 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 beep. She'll know to plug it in. And then there's a different alarm, and you could change the colors and things on the bottom to really catch your attention. So it's a really super nice applet that's in there. And I wish more of them would have them. Like I said, KDE's got something similar, but it's not quite the same. So, but that, I don't know if that answers your question, but yeah, I don't like letting any of my computers go into a hibernation mode because it seems like that's where if anything in Linux, that's the one place I've had issues in the past.
Could be.
So when you close the lid on a laptop, what does it trigger within the operating system to?
It would just turn the
must
monitor off. I would just tell it that in theory
Right.
it's set to where it would just, the monitor would turn off. You wouldn't open it up and it'd be, right. It would come on from being in like a, I guess it's almost like a hibernation state, but it goes into almost like either, I don't want to call it a sleep mode, but it turns the monitor off when you close it, and then it turns it back on when you lift it up. Is what I've always
that's a
used
power save mode. They do a lot of that with like Windows-based machines. So there may be an option where when you close the lid, do nothing. It'll still be closed and things like that,
Blank.
but it won't put it into that state. So there may be an option in there somewhere where you can. I don't know. I haven't tinkered around with Mint in a while. Where it has that option to when you close the lid, do nothing.
Yeah, should be.
But there's obviously something different in the hardware, Jason, because the thing is she's got that exact system on her ThinkPad, and it doesn't affect it at all. And again, this one being a few years newer, so maybe there's something in the hardware difference that I haven't figured out.
So you are using Linux Mint, which means you're using using X11 for your display server.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah.
So there was something that I played around with. This was 2020. So I wrote an article in 2020 on cubicalnate.com. Not to say not to plug cubicalnate.com, but here we go.
Plug it.
But I have I'll put the link here in the YouTube thing too. So you can turn off and turn on your monitor backlight with commands, and so it actually turns the monitor on and off. So this might be something we can force. Set the display to be forced on. You could potentially have this as a script or something that you run, or even assign it to a hotkey if it doesn't turn on or whatever. So you can check that out. That may or may not be helpful.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Could be helpful. I had to use. I can't remember why I needed it. I'm sure it's written down here somewhere in the somewhere here. But
what version of Linux Mint did you put on the Yoga? What is that? 21.3?
No, at the time, I think it was 21.1 because I don't think 21.2 was quite out yet. And there were some definite improvements in 21.2, but I don't know if that was one of them. But it caught my attention when they talked about improvement on fractional scaling because that is a higher end AMD processor in there and stuff. And I noticed the resolution was quite different too. It was, it's a really super nice system, and Lenovo's have always been Linux friendly. So it was just something about Mint that it didn't like, because I have Mint on my little workstation, my little cube workstation at my duplex that I've been working out of, and I've got it on this, and then she's got it on that laptop, and I've got it, I've had it all over. So for it to be isolated, for that problem to be isolated to that, I'm thinking it was something with the newer hardware that it just maybe didn't like initially. And even like on this, I'm running the 6.5 kernel on this, and so far I was having crashes with Cinnamon only to find out that I put a different Redshift applet on in here, and then there was a warning that it did say it could cause crashes, and I found a different one that's been working better. So I think it might have been the applet that was causing it and not the kernel, because I was starting to wonder if I wasn't having a kernel issue. But this computer is a 5800X. It's got a 6700 XT, so it's not a slouch, and it's got newer hardware. So I figured the newer kernels were going to play nicer with it. So
there's also a setting in the Mint. I don't know if it's in the version that you were using, but it's a under the system settings. They have they have power, batteries, and brightness. Under the brightness, there is an option where it says brightness level when inactive 30%. So when you're not using the screen, it dims it. And then dim screen active when inactive after a certain amount of seconds. I'm wondering, and in fact, maybe.
No, I checked that too. This was more the bigger problem was not so much with the lid closing as much as it was plugging in to charge it. Like I said, when her alarm goes off on that one to tell her it's low, she plugs it in and nothing changes. It just lets you know on the panel that it's in charge mode now. That one, and it's because again, that one has USB-C for charging versus the old, the 3.0 or 3.1, like most computers have, the laptops. So I don't know if that was the difference because it's a more high performance charging. As soon as I plugged that in, boom, it went dim, and there was nothing that would allow me to change anything in there, and you could barely see the screen, just enough to turn around and tell it to reboot. So, and I even tried keyboard commands.
That might have been something to do with the actual GPU itself, then in that case, because it might have been something, because you said it was an AMD system, so it might have been something to do with the particular, I don't know if it had discrete graphics or onboard graphics, if the case was there, but that sounds like to me that if it's...
yeah, this has got both, those one of those goofy ones that's got both in there.
That could be the problem right there, as well as it could be, when you plug in the power, the discrete graphics, it's, drains that power, and then the other, it could be in a conflict. There's so many different things that could be at this point.
Yeah. It's variable. I think Linux Mint, the kernel on the 21 series is quite old. So because that's a new laptop, maybe it might be worthwhile if you can. I don't know if you can in Linux Mint, upgrade the kernel and see if it makes any difference.
Yeah, I've got again with MX23 on there now, and it's working perfectly. It's like. I think you'll be able to adapt to that, so I'm just going to leave it alone for now. But I was half tempted to try it just to see if maybe with the new version coming out, and that's a good point because even on my old the little cube workstation, I call it old. It's a 2016, but I didn't start using it till probably 2017, and when I put Mint on that, and I'm running the 6.5 kernel on that too, and that's got an i5 7500. Her other ThinkPad. That has got an Intel processor too, so it is, and you would think with the AMD stuff being that it's in the kernel, it would, so yeah, it's valid points. It's something I'll look at, if nothing else, maybe I'll try it again and before she starts taking it over for permanent use. But I do like MX on there. MX one's fantastic. So.
And they must have an updated kernel as well compared to Mint, wouldn't they? I would think.
Yeah, it starts out with 6.1. It was 6.1 kernel.
Yeah, so that's probably the difference. I think it's the kernel version.
Well, so you said that especially MX starts out with 6.1.
What's that?
You said MX starts out with the 6.1.
Yeah, MX23 KD has I believe it's 6.1 point something kernel. I know that recently, even in before I still haven't updated 21.3 in here, but like I said, they have the 6.5 kernel available now in Mint. It pushes it out to August, for support. But you can also use that mainline kernel if you wanted to manually install something different. But then you're running a risk of it not playing nice,
Yeah. By the way, Joe, just so you know, Linux Mint has a version called Edge, which has an updated kernel, so you could probably try that one too. Yeah. But then again, if MX is running well, living on the edge, mate, that's what you got to do.
Yeah. Hey, you look a little warm, Colin, over there.
A little. I've got the fan going here. Look, it's hot as.
We just got hit. We've got like 14 inches of snow out here. I'm not exaggerating.
It's on its way here across the lake too.
Not down in Florida. Nope.
Supposed to go down to 0 tonight.
Let it snow.
So with Ubuntu, I've got the latest version of Ubuntu on there. It runs a 6.5 kernel. Yeah. On the Mac Pro, it could be the Mac Pro itself. It runs. I got the latest version of Mint on there. that just upgraded it, but it's still on the 5.15 kernel.
Yep.
Now the laptop is running the 6.5 kernel in Mint. Now it could be the hardware is where it's causing because it's older processors and things of that nature on the Mac Pro that is causing it. Because when I upgraded it manually to the latest kernel, it won't boot. It just sits on the Linux Mint logo and won't boot. So the I know you said it was newer hardware and stuff, but it could have been something in the hardware itself that was allowing the system itself to upgrade to the proper kernel, and then causing dimming and other issues.
Yeah, I can't remember if that's either a 5000 series or it might even be a 7000 series AMD in there. I can't remember because I bought that last summer, so it's been sitting that long. But I just took it out yesterday and kind of periodically I run a charge on it and update it and tweak it or whatever I do to it. But yeah, that's a thought because I noticed even when I was looking at 21.3, I think they're still doing the 515 as a base kernel, but I did see 6.7 shown on DistroWatch. There's a link for it, and I was starting to wonder if they weren't having that available on that too, where you could get it like this one.
I think the latest right now is the 6.5 that I saw when I was doing it for trying to do it manually on this machine.
Yeah, 6.5.14. Yeah.
And I didn't like that. This machine did not like that at all. So I had to completely reinstall. And then when you do, like, if you do a full system upgrade, update and upgrade and all that stuff, like what I did it with the laptop. Initially, it installed it with 5.5, but then when I did the updates, it bumped it to the correct, the latest one. This one won't go past 5.15 because it's not stable for the system apparently.
Wow, that's interesting. Because I know there was two in here too for a while there, and then they, that's next month. That support for that's going away. So. Yeah.
I mean, it's based on.
Quick question.
Yep.
Fire away.
What's your question?
Right, I was just here listening about the Linux operating on various computers such as the Dell, Lenovo, and Mac. What about the Chromebook? Can it be installed on the Chromebooks?
Yes, provisionally.
It's very complicated because there are several Chromebooks and the compatibility varies a lot. There's a project called Mr. Chromebook Box, I think, or something like that. And they have like a wiki there where you can look up your model and see if you need to install something to be compatible with Linux or something. But it shows you how to like update it in case you need to. Let me look up the link.
I think it was actually Adam he just joined. He's actually one that told me about that, and I did play in there trying to find a solution for a particular Chromebook, and the solution was complicated enough that I thought, I'm just going to put Crouton on this and call it
good. Yeah. My experience with the Chromebooks have never been never been a good experience personally.
Yeah, I think
I had
a Chromebook in general though.
I had a Chromebook that stopped being updated. And I used Mr. Chromebox to put what is that called? Core boot on, and now I can run Linux. It's just like basically like another PC or whatever. It has EFI now.
Yeah,
It almost sounds like OpenCore for Linux to me.
I have a Chromebook that's in that situation. I should really look into that. And I was thinking like, what operating system should I put on there? I just couldn't quite figure it out.
So somebody's still bleeding the green. Okay.
Yes, nothing's changed.
The one caveat I will give you is that if you do switch over to something like Mr. Chromebox, and put it like a core boot and start using Linux instead of Chrome OS. Chrome OS has a lot more efficiency with battery, so you won't notice a difference because there's a lot of proprietary, I guess, optimizations that Google does.
Yeah.
So Chrome OS, those systems, they're not ARM, are they? They're just normal.
Some are ARM, some are x86.
It could be. But some of them are ARM, some of them are
right.
64-bit.
It's lightweight enough that it can work on all of it.
Right.
Well, the other thing about that too is I've been doing some research myself too, and there are some of the manufacturers do have some optimization support things you can download and put. You'd have to check your specific models or whatever, but there are starting to come about with having some Linux support for this kind for battery optimization. Like everybody uses TLP for the most part if you got a laptop, if you're familiar with it, and it does an okay job. It does help. Uh, but there are some now, like I think Asus is one of them, or is it Acer? I can't remember. And then there's a couple other ones listed that there are specific apps that they have available for it, but you'd have to do some digging.
So speaking of, just do a quick little segue here. So we're in a new year now, and there's been a lot of cool. There are a lot of cool projects that are in the works right now that are being worked on. I don't think one being, the work on Wayland I think is pretty awesome and whatnot. But are there any cool projects in Linux or open source that you find just that something that you want to really explore this year? I don't know if anyone has anything like. Okay, so I'll give you an application that I think is really interesting, and I just found out about it today. And I don't know that it's not really geared toward Linux users necessarily, but it is an open source project. I think it's on GitHub, but it's called ExoDOS, and it's like an easy front end, kind of like you would have like an easy launcher, like you'd have like a carousel launcher or whatever that you would have for other systems, like on Steam or whatever. But they have that for playing old DOS games. They have pre-configured, bottles, I guess, like wine bottle kind of thing. It's not wine I don't think it's wine that it runs in. I'm not sure what it runs in. It's DOSBox. So it's basically it's DOSBox. It's like a fork of DOSBox, and you can organize and play your old, DOS games, but in a really neat like carousel type fashion. Is it something I need to do? Is it something that's practical? No, not at all. But I think it's cool. I think it's neat, as Adam would say. Why? Because it's neat, and
pretty swell.
It's swell, yeah. And so I think it's just a really neat project that I just stumbled upon today. I was watching like something like Craft Computing on YouTube. I had it on while I was cleaning the kitchen or whatever, and he brought this up on some really neat little thing he was reviewing. And so I thought, oh man, that's something I really want to check out. And so anyway, I don't know if anyone has any other projects or something that they think that's like interesting that they want to track down or follow. No, nothing.
Not really.
Not really.
No.
Back into the Linux game, so I haven't really, got any idea of what's going on for my needs yet.
Okay. The other thing I think is really exciting is Plasma 6. So I'm a big Plasma user. I've been very happy with it. I'm a house divided. I have some things on X11 and some things on Wayland, and I've been really enjoying a lot of my Wayland experience because it's like really smooth and whatnot. But there's some occasional little issues here and there that remind you that it's Wayland, and I'm really hoping that when Plasma 6 is rolled out, that the Wayland experience will have those little rough edges all patched up. But that's another thing I'm really excited for is Plasma 6 for sure. And
I say, sorry Nate, I was going to say I've seen a video on Plasma 6. I can't remember who it was. It's just random. But it looks quite nice because I'm running Plasma at the moment, so it'll probably update to 6 once it comes around on Arch, I think, should do. But it looks really good. It's got it's completely different, isn't it? Like all the settings and everything, probably a lot more simplified, I think. It looks that way anyway. Yeah.
It's very similar. I'm actually on it right now. It's a pretty similar experience overall. Yeah. I mean, it's not revolutionary. Like it's
I'm good with
nice
that.
Refinements. It's a lot of nice refinements, but it still very much feels like Plasma.
Right.
Which is a good thing. Like that's not a knock, right? They did simplify the settings quite a bit. I think they ordered them better because I feel like most people, for example, they play input and output stuff like mouse, keyboard, display, all that kind of stuff at the top, and kind of reordered things to be a little more of what people mostly use, I guess. Maybe the people who actually contributed the telemetry maybe helped with that. There's still definitely some bugs. They did the release candidate 1 this week, and it's in the KDE unstable on Arch, but be kind of aware that it is KDE unstable. So there's still some quirks with it. I will happily report that G-Sync and FreeSync work perfectly fine under Wayland.
Sweet.
With the newest NVIDIA driver, and I'm assuming all the latest Mesa stuff.
Wait,
I don't know, it's really nice. Like, it's pretty performant. There's still some weird bugs, like the was it kickoff launcher or whatever, that thing sometimes doesn't show up. You have to kind of hit the Windows key a few times before it decides to cooperate. Krunner just likes to hide occasionally. Like those kind of things, right? But it still definitely needs some work. But yeah, the rate at which they've improved it's pretty substantial. I've tried the beta 1, beta 2, and RC1 now, and it's improved substantially each time. They do actually have HDR support, but only for the desktop. They have not completely connected HDR into the KWin or Quinn, or however you want to pronounce it, window manager, but you can get it to work. You can get it to pass the HDR metadata into GameScope for like HDR gaming. Same thing with MPV. You can get it to pass an MPV for like HDR movies. They've done a lot of really nice things. It feels like Plasma 5 plus, if you get what I mean.
Yep,
like,
I'm good with that.
Yeah, it's absolutely a good release so far, and they did switch to DoubleClick. I will say that. I think they did that in the last release, but yeah, it's now DoubleClick by default. So that everyone can argue about that now.
Weren't they supposed to get rid of a bunch of the redundancies too, Adam? Where, in other words, you could go to 3 different places to do the same task?
Most likely. I guess I've always, if they did, the way they kept was the way I already did it. So I guess I didn't.
Yeah.
So
I didn't really notice that at all.
I think they got rid of that quite a while ago. They had like different routes to the same thing, so you could take more than one road led to the same city, but different ways. But what I like is, if let's say I have the settings open already and I go to do some other modifications of settings, it just brings that window back up with those settings. So they've kind of, I think, cleaned it up in that regard. I think one could argue that they wouldn't like that. They would rather spawn a new window, but I like the fact they keep the window spawning to a minimum, or to not at all.
And they're supposed to be releasing like all the KDE gear stuff as well. So it's like the Plasma desktop, the frameworks, and KDE gear is what they call like their app ecosystem, like Dolphin, Spectacle, Ocular, those things, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're releasing all those all at once, kind of thing, I believe, or around the same time. So right now in KDE Unstable, you can get the latest, the KDE gear stuff as well. So like latest Dolphin, latest of those things. There's, I don't know, it just feels really good. The performance on Wayland is spectacular, even on NVIDIA. There's still some things missing, but it's not necessarily Plasma's fault, like the exclusive sync thing, and that would be nice. But yeah,
one of the things I like that seems like it's been back, and I don't know if it was just MX, is that I haven't used any other KDE in a while. Last one I used was Manjaro a few years ago, but they had taken away from Dolphin the ability to do any kind of elevated privileges for file changes and things like that, where it seems like now there's the ability to do that in there again.
Yeah, so there's actually a separate package called KIO admin that is responsible for that. So yeah, in Dolphin, if you wanted to open a folder that normally doesn't have your privileges, then there is an open as administrator that will allow you to type in your sudo password, and it will open an elevated Dolphin window.
But aren't there, like, if I remember right, there's 2 or 3 options in there for different elevated privileges, which can be a little confusing too for some.
I only see one. It just says open as administrator.
Yeah, there's in MX there's actually more than one. I know that because I don't know what the difference is, so I haven't messed with it yet. So
yeah, so like if I were
correct me if I'm wrong, Adam. I'm pretty sure that I went into a system file and I forgot that I think it was in KDE. And I forgot that I was actually not in elevated privileges, but I think I changed the file when I clicked save, and then it popped up and asked me for a password.
Yeah, so
that was pretty handy.
Yeah, if you have the KIO admin package, which likely you do,
right.
If you're running something like Kate or something like that, it definitely will plug in that, and it will prompt you for the elevated privileges to be able to save. So you wouldn't have to be like, oh no, I didn't open it as sudo, so I gotta close it out and redo. It's kind of nice that it does that, and you can actually open up files themselves. So if you go and like say you're editing your FS tab or something, you can go into that in Dolphin and right click it and open as administrator from the get go. So
right, okay. I didn't know that actually.
Yeah, that's all a nice built-in thing now.
Okay. Check that out too.
So I looked at the KIO packages. KIO. How would you say that? KIO.
KIO. It's KD input output. I'm guessing.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I don't see it for because I'm running Tumbleweed, of course. I don't see the admin one, but there is an admin option. I think it might just be a SUSE thing.
Might be a naming thing.
That got me curious. I'm gonna go get the laptop.
It could be. Well, I think no, like it has a open as super user, a folder. So it's just a right click open with whatever, and I think it's just a super user open.
Yeah,
I think it's a hacky way.
It's the same. Oh, you don't think that's the official way? You think it's?
I think it's because when it went away, that was added in OpenSUSE.
Right.
So
right,
I think it's
so that was their workaround.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now they have an official like KIO plugin for that. So
no, that's good. I think that'll be great.
The Arch package is just KIO-admin.
So there's
I mean, I'm
definitely
really happy with it for gaming performance, which is important to me. Is good. It's very good. So that's always nice.
Yeah, well, I think there's a KIO slave for accessing ISO images. There's one for Perl documentation. I don't know why you'd want that. There's also one for G Drive. I didn't know that until just now.
Yeah, so in the online accounts thing, they had a support for Google Drive in there.
That's really cool. I had no idea that was the thing. Well, what do you know?
Yeah, this is the kind of stuff I dig into, I guess. I don't know.
No, that's cool stuff. I like that's part of the fun of Linux Saloon because people dig into things that you didn't even think about digging into. So
yeah, I enjoy that console has a nice SSH manager. I don't know if it's always been there, but it's very nice.
I don't think I've used that actually.
Yeah, it may or may not be in the old ones. I don't know. I've never used it either, but you basically, you can create little folders and that hosts you have like hosts you regularly SSH into and like a nice list, so you can just double click it.
Oh,
but
yeah.
There's
an SSH manager. You're right.
Key. Yeah, there's a shortcut key, Control-Alt-H, that will.
Control-H.
Like it'll do like a little pop down, like a drop down thing from the top, and like you can select the host from there.
Holy cow! Man, I wish I would have known about that. Okay, that's awesome. Okay.
And there's also a quick commands panel in there that you can maybe there's like certain commands you type in often or something. You can create those quick commands and Control-Alt-G, and you can just type in the command you want. So say like, I don't know, your zipper upgrade, or maybe there's like a long string you use for connecting to an Open Connect VPN or something.
Right.
Just put that in there as well.
That's really neat. So I'm going to be using that for work. So I think you just made my work life slightly easier because there's some systems I have to log into periodically to check on certain things. And I probably need to create some automations for it, but until I get to that point, that's really cool. Hot dog, I like that.
Here's where I was confused with the options, Adam. You right click, let's say on a Etsy folder, and there's a root actions option. You click on that, and then it shows ownership to, which I haven't clicked on any of these yet. This is what it says, ... and then it shows change permissions underneath that. Ownership is root. Ownership is active user. So it's like there's 4 different things you could do there in this menu.
Is that an MX?
Yes.
Okay.
But I haven't had the guts to mess with them yet.
Maybe I should you can just mess with it. What's worse that'll happen?
Is MX running Plasma?
Yeah, this is here.
Yeah, they got Plasma, yeah.
Oh,
got a Plasma version.
Like weird XSD
thing. KDE.
No, my right click has open as administrator.
Yeah, that's
see, this doesn't. That's why I'm wondering if this isn't an MX thing.
It could be.
You know,
But they're running 527 though.
right?
Yeah, 527.
But you know how MX is. They add
Right.
tons of other things that most distros don't too.
It's probably a similar scenario as to
Yeah.
OpenSUSE when they removed the administrative access thing. They probably found their own workaround and added it in there. And
Yeah.
Well, my workaround was
legacy
just
holdover.
install Nemo on here and have a second file system if I wanted to go in there and change it. That was always my workaround.
So
maybe it's in settings.
Dolphin's too good.
So the
Yeah,
open
it
folder.
is, it's nice.
So what SUSE does, open folder with file manager super user mode. So they just you
Right,
can
yeah.
figure that out really quickly how they did that. That was a very simple, just little way of plugging into that to make it work.
It's a very like Windows familiar thing, having an open as administrator option.
Yeah, no, I think that's great.
Yeah, this is. I mean, when you look at this, is really it's a nice system. It's a nice laptop. It works really well. I think it's the biggest thing I think it's going to be a challenge for her and me and my old eyes is it doesn't have a matte screen, although the resolution's fantastic, but reflection wise it could be a little. Other than that, it actually feels a lot like a thin MacBook Pro or something, with the metal body and stuff like that. So
they did simplify the panel settings dialog. So it used to be this weird the thing on the right with like various toggle bars and stuff. They actually have like a nice panel settings like thing pop up in the center, and there's 6 boxes that have the different things. So like one where you can set the position, alignment, length, visibility, opacity, and style, and it's a much better, like more organized interface. And instead of there are drop downs underneath each of the sections, and so you can kind of get to them that way instead of having this kind of unorganized weirdness on the right. And just
you're talking about Plasma 6, yes?
Yeah, Plasma 6, yeah.
Hmm.
And it's just a much, like I said, it's Plasma 5 Plus, so like it's all the weird things about Plasma 5 that have been kind of taken care of. But supposedly Plasma 6.1 will have more refinements than 6. Just it's sort of the porting over to Qt 6 and the KD frameworks and stuff took most of that work. I think they're supposed to have an icon set as well in 6.1.
That Nico, I can't think of his last name, one of the KDE developers, that he has a channel too. I remember his big thing about 6 coming out and kind of really feeling happy about it is making it more user friendly, which is what you sounds like you're describing.
Yeah, it is. It's much more approachable. It does feel less like the I don't know, the multiple tunnels to things, so to speak. Feels a lot
refined,
more focused. Yeah.
Well, if you remember back in the Plasma 4 or before days, the biggest thing was it always felt like it was heavy or clunky.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think it does that anymore.
KD4 was awful. But that being said, the power is still there as well. Like they refined it without removing all of the options and stuff that people really want and actually need to get things done with, right?
That's excellent.
So it's a good combo.
No, there was Ron brought up something in the chat. It says that I'd like to bring up. It said I would want to stop paying TeamViewer for remote access to boxes at my office by staff. What would be a good floss thing that I could create with MS RDP protocol? So I think the what I've used is Rust Desk. Have you tried that? Check out Rust Desk. It's very TeamViewer-esque, except without the TeamViewer, makes you. It's a little more like any desk, I think, but without the I want to vomit pieces. So it works pretty well. I've used it to access like Raspberry Pi computers from a desktop, and it does have Wayland support too. So check it out.
It does work across pretty much every OS too.
Yep. So check that out. Check out Rust Desk. See if that fits the bill. But that
sounds good, because we tried Remina before, and not excuse me, not too many people seem to be too keen on it. So yeah.
So I use
it's like a throwback to 1998 or something.
So I use Remina because to me it works way better than the RDP built into Windows. I use it on Linux, Remina. But I think what you want is more for remote administration.
Mm-hmm.
With like an a way to make that tunnel connection, whatever, to help people out. And yeah, I think Rust Desk. I think you might be happy. Check it out. See if you like it. I would love to move my company over to Rust Desk if I had my option. That's what I would do. But that's one of my goals. Maybe I don't know. I don't want to say that because I've made some good decisions at work, and I think I made one bad one. But I'm not going to talk about that because it's embarrassing. It's not really embarrassing. It should have been a home run, and it was not a home run. It was like a foul ball.
Do they remind you about it every week or so?
Actually, not in the last 2 weeks. They haven't. Everyone's been happy. But it's been like 6. But it's not like 6 weeks of banging my head against the wall. So yeah, I hate phones. So anyway, are there any news items out there that really interest you? Does anyone like anything in the news that they thought was pretty interesting that they would love to chat about?
I did see something, but I can't remember what it was.
Sounds interesting. If you can't remember what it was.
No, I'm just looking now. I remember I was reading something the other day. Oh, they're saying Ubuntu long-term support 2404 is going to have 12 years of updates. Did you see that? That's interesting.
That is interesting.
And I think that must be also for the desktop as well, I think.
I think that's for the flagship, but not for the flavors.
Oh, just the flagship Ubuntu. Yeah, you're probably right. Yeah.
So you better be in love with GNOME, I guess.
So
I don't mind GNOME.
So I think a news story that interests me. I don't know what's going to become of it, if anything, this year, but systemd boot and full disk encryption in Tumbleweed and Micro OS. I don't know if, of course, it's an OpenSUSE thing, but I don't know if they've integrated the Snapper thing yet. But it is something that's being worked on, and I think I think it's pretty exciting. But that's something, a news story that I read today that I thought was really interesting. Anyway, I'll put the link in the chat here, so if you want to check that out. But I'm not really like big in the whole full disk encryption thing. I can understand why it's important, but I don't know. I just kind of get something about full disk encryption is I don't know. It makes me nervous, I guess.
Yeah, I'm worried I'll forget my password to do something like that.
Yeah,
I would imagine it will probably kill your battery, especially if you're on a laptop.
I don't know if it's
just decrypting everything it does, every app. I
don't think that's the problem as much. I mean, I think the encryption decryption algorithms are pretty efficient at this point. So I don't believe it's any more processor intensive than unencrypted. I don't believe.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure there is some overhead, but I think it's very minimal.
Minimal.
So, yeah, but I don't think that's a big deal.
Okay. This is one I wanted to bring up was how could we forget Solus 4.5 was released, and they've added an XFCE desktop in amongst all the other desktops that they have. So it looks like they've got KDE, GNOME, their flagship Budgie, and now XFCE. So they must have got rid of Mate then, because they used to have a Mate version.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah, I have to double check that. Let me see.
They said they were going to deprecate it, but I don't think they got rid of it yet, did they?
Let me double.
I'm not sure.
Let's see. Go into the website. Go to download.
Yeah, they don't offer the Mate download. I'm guessing they're still updating it, But they just won't let you install it anymore. They're not going to give you the
Right.
ISO anymore because they're
Right.
because it's being deprecated.
So, wow. Okay.
They've seen the light, I guess.
Yeah, well, it doesn't affect me all that much because I don't use Mate on Solus. But let me reach out to them.
What do you use? Do you use Budgie or no?
I always use Budgie.
Budgie, yeah.
So that's why I was mentioning like it doesn't like okay. Long as you don't mess with Budgie, I'm cool.
Yeah, Budgie's just a simple desktop that it's to put it politely, it's boring. It just gets out of your way and it just gets out of your way and lets you do what you want to do on your computer.
Maybe
But
that's
I
why
mean, if
love
you
it
like,
so much.
yeah, if you like to tweak, it can get a bit boring. But you can do little things to modify it and to suit your the way you like to work. So
I would prefer, if I have a preference of, say XFCE versus Mate, Mate would be my preferred. But in this case, it's not really, now if they did that in Linux Mint where, they theoretically they changed it up, then I'd be a little upset. But it is what it is.
it's good to see a release for Solus anyway, because it just goes to show now that they're back on track. They're sorting everything out, so that's really good. Good to see a release.
It makes me really happy to see that they're back on track with what they're trying to do. Sometimes you deal with naysayers, and they promote that gloom and doom stuff, and it's like, okay, well, don't use it. Meanwhile, those that are enthused about it, use it, you're good to go. That's just how I see it.
Well, very cool. I would like to definitely put Solus on the list for this year again, just because I think I'm excited to see the changes that are happening. But I think there's a lot of exciting things happening in Linux.
Yeah, I believe so. I think Wayland's probably become a lot better than we ever thought it would.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's working really well. So I mean, I'm on Wayland and I've had no problems recently. So it's really good.
Yeah, I agree, and I like the fact that it's if you have higher, like more than 1080p screens, that you don't have any weird tearing in with Wayland.
Right.
That you would have with X11. And maybe 1440 is fine also with X11, but yeah, no, I like the fact that I can the display is so much smoother. It's pretty sweet, pretty rad, tubular,
The
whatever.
encouraging thing is Linux gaining market share, and I'm curious to see how much more of a jump it'll take with they're saying it's getting to be more than just a rumor mill that Windows 12 is going subscription. So it'll be interesting to see if that happens, if it's a big jump with. And then the other thing too may drive it is Windows 11 actually support will end 1 month after Windows 10. Now people who want to pay annually for the next 3 years for security updates can do that, but I have a feeling that's still going to drive some people away.
I would like to know what I'm going to do in the enterprise space for all that. I don't know yet.
Enterprise space, you'll be paying.
Yeah, I'm already paying a lot.
Windows. Though. Yeah, if it's Windows, you'll continue to pay for the security updates for however long.
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying, like when I look at like what I'm paying monthly in subscriptions for various things, it makes my stomach hurt a lot. I mean, my thought is, and again, we can't do this at this point. I mean, at least I don't see a clear avenue, but if perhaps we used an open source project that did the exact same thing and did it as well and supported that project, even at 10% of what we're paying now to these proprietary companies, that would be huge for an open source project. So I don't know.
Yeah. It may very well come. I think things are heading that way a little bit because, I mean, the biggest challenge I think out of this right now, you're talking more in a business environment too, where think about the average user, just like the Chromebooks. I mean, you hear Carmen, Total West, you hear him talk about finally he got his wish about, the Linux, as he calls it, the Chromebook being the Linux for, people that's an affordable system or whatever being on a Chromebook. But and that's true. But the thing is if people go out and buy any kind of a laptop and they got to pay to have their operating system every month, and then let's say they do want to use Photoshop or whatever. I mean, even just the operating system, how many people are going to want to they buy a cheap $300 or $400 laptop just to do everyday thing? How many people are really going to want to keep paying for that laptop to be able to use it, the operating system? So to me, this is the perfect opportunity for, as we've talked over many years, one of the biggest, I think, failures that has happened with Linux, which I think is gradually changing, but it's still got a long way to go, is it's not marketed well in the sense of, being a viable option for people, because I still think that there's the perception that it's only good for older hardware, when in fact it's actually shifted now to yeah, you can still revitalize some older hardware with it, but the truth of the matter is it's with the newer kernels and everything else, it's getting geared more toward the new stuff now. So I think there needs to be better presentation, whether it's platforms like this, but I'm talking about just marketing in general, or like the larger companies, yeah, they have it on their website that they have Linux available, but how many of them really push it in a marketing campaign? They don't yet. And part of that is because they're locked down with, the ecosystem of Microsoft, twisting their arm, like with TPM and all this other stuff, because that's where the money's at now. So it's up to this community and the corporations that have in the Linux community to help with some of this, I think, that can afford the funding for it. I mean, I don't know what anybody else's opinion is, but I really do think that the word needs to get out better than just people like us talking about it. You know what I mean? There needs to be a good quality marketing campaign to show that and show the differences. That's the biggest challenge is you tell people about it, but explaining to them, different things about it. If everybody thinks Photoshop, everybody thinks, Notepad or whatever. I'm finding more and more people are becoming more open to learning some of this stuff, especially when they don't recognize what Windows looks like anymore. So I hope some of you agree with this, but I'd be interested to hear your thoughts.
If folks want to come over, they're gonna come over. I'm not here to proselytize or evangelize or anything. Like, it's not really worth the breath for most people. And like, if somebody's looking and desperate, sure, I guess I'll offer it. But usually, if I suggest something to somebody like that, now I'm on the hook for it. So I'd rather just let them flounder. It's easier that way.
But see, that's where I think we have a little difference of opinion there, Adam. I get what you're saying, because it's like anything else. You do something, you become their tech support. For me, I'm perfectly fine with helping. I'm retired, whatever. I'm willing to spend time to teach people, and I think that's where, with all due respect, I think where we're failing, because that kind of, I guess, ideology. Am I saying it right? I don't know. Ideology, whatever. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing it. But that thought process, let's simplify it. This is where we have to do better. People have to be willing to. It's no different than the people that jump in as volunteers to do these projects, right? Just look at ourselves as another volunteer to help educate people. That's why I look at it as I'm a volunteer, so to speak, to educate people. I don't push it down anybody's throat. I talk about it a lot. They see I talk about it with enthusiasm. I said, but I want you to tell me if it's something you're open to. It's just like the guy that I just redid an older computer to give him a couple more years out of it. It's an old HP actual workstation type of thing. I put a new SSD, all this stuff, and he wanted Mint on it. He's familiar with LibreOffice already. And he said, no, I don't have to have Windows. I'm getting sick of it, that kind of thing. So, okay, he is in the mindset that you're speaking of. But part of this is yes, they do have to be ready for it. And I think as Windows keeps shoving things down people's throat, reaching into their pockets, those are the things that are going to be the motivators for them. But again, It's not a matter of pushing it. It's showing them. It's being a salesman, so to speak. It's like showing them the benefits and the shortcomings. You have to do both, and then let them decide for themselves.
I think the big sticking point with Linux is with Windows, and wherever you go, you buy a computer. You can get it with Windows on it. Nobody is in that mindset of installing an operating system. If you're a little bit tech savvy or whatever, and you're interested in that stuff, which is I was, then you will tackle it and learn how to do it. But I think if you're going to market anything, you need to market like System 76 and all these other people that are actually making computers with Linux on it, and probably market them. Dell, they're another one, but most people wouldn't even know. They go to Dell, just look for a computer with Windows on it, right? And
that's
then,
my point.
Yeah. I mean, I think people don't want to install. I think people are lazy. They don't want to install an operating system. They probably don't want to learn. I mean, if it came with that on it, but then it's the unknown as well, isn't it? Is it going to work for everything I need it for, right?
Also, the market reality now is that a PC is for work. Like, people don't enjoy PCs by and large. They enjoy their phones, their tablets, game consoles, etc. PC has been relegated to the thing you use at work.
I think that's always been...
Unless you're an enthusiast, like, people don't really want to use a PC to begin with.
But the difference is, though, you have an older computer, it's working fine. Now, because you don't have TPM support or the next version comes out, you're going to be forced to throw it away. No. It's no different than, to your point, Colin, when Windows 10 was coming out and they were literally forcing it on people's throat with pop-ups. Hey, upgrade this, right down to people doing.
Oh, yeah, it's terrible. Yeah, for sure.
So I, at that point, sold more older computers that I refurbished with Linux already on them, or people that say, hey, can you help, rescue my PC because there's nothing wrong with it, and maybe put this on here for me, and I am certainly glad to help them and then educate them a little bit or whatever. But the truth of the matter is if you set it up correctly, I'm going to give you a perfect example. You put LibreOffice on it. How many people remember to change the file extension to a Microsoft extension? Because that's where the biggest conflict comes with that, is when they go to send the file to somebody that's got,
ODT.
They can't read it. So I go through the trouble and make sure the file extensions are in there. I put the Microsoft fonts in there. I do all those things. And you know why? Because then this way they're not calling me later and say, how come this isn't working? And then I'm putting more time. So I do it up front.
Joe,
and I explain to them what I do.
Do you have a check sheet of this is what you do to set up a computer for somebody?
I do. I actually
think
created
you need to share that with the on the Linux Saloon Telegram, because I might,
okay,
because I'll copy that just in case it happens again. But honestly, I've been more like you in the past, Joe, but actually now I'm probably more like Adam when it comes to, like, I don't necessarily want to push it. I'm very open about Linux, but they have to come to me and ask. I'm not going to tell them.
Yeah, I don't even want to suggest it, much less. Like, it's not
the
even
only reason I suggest is somebody who's having trouble with a system and they're thinking they got to replace it.
Right.
And if I can help them buy another year or two, most people are open to it. And if they're not, that's fine. I don't force it down anybody's throat. And the reality of it is too is, like, I have my Tux Power PC page on Facebook, and I'll post on there about Linux, and I'll even post about news about Windows, what's happening. But I try to show them the differences and the opportunities, and then people will come to me. So that is driving people that way if they're curious about it. But I also created a little, like, questionnaire, self-questionnaire about, do you do this? Do you do this? Do you do this? Do you do this? Because then Linux may very well be for you as an alternative option. And I do have people ask about that stuff. And it's just, I put the ball in their court. I just get them thinking about it, because many of them are getting frustrated. They're getting tired of the updates taking forever, or, the blue screen of death, or what's scary too. We're going to have a blue screen of death now too, by the sound of it. It's just, oh my God,
that's a fun thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
But
honestly, like,
what was I going to say?
Even just using Windows 10 for another year after EOL is fine. Like, it's fine.
I've never
biggest
actually
factor going between Windows and Linux for most people is the comfortability of Windows. People know Windows.
Muscle
Yeah.
memory, yeah.
And they, I've done some research on the Windows 12 thing. The likelihood of it actually becoming a subscription base is pretty low, because of the Microsoft they want to keep people on their systems, and if they do a subscription base, because if you have Windows 11, Windows 12 is going to be a free upgrade. The only time Windows 12 may become a paid thing is like for OEMs and things of that nature when you're buying it for mass, like Dell and stuff, buying it in bulk. But as far as Linux goes, I found that the number one reason why people don't want to make the switch to Linux is because they're more afraid of it, so to speak, because they don't know. It's not Windows. It's not something that is that they're used to. And I don't have a lot of people coming up to me and saying, "Hey, I want to run Linux." I got my brother into it because he would come down here occasionally back in the old days and see us talking about it and listen to us talking about it, see me tinkering with it. So he's got 2 or 3 Linux machines, but he's a techie. He's a nerd like us. Now if I was trying to do that with like say one of my friends or something, they'll look at me like I had 2 heads or something.
But do you ever approach this, Jason, too, see, this guy that came to me, he wants to do music recording, and I reached out to Scrapjaw and I said, hey, what would be the best to use for Linux if somebody wanted to try the operating system? And he mentioned Reaper plus some extensions that are a must or whatever, and this guy's open to that. He gave me another desktop. He said he doesn't want it. The laptop he was ready to give to me too, and I said, well, you know what? I said, if you want, I'll try to see about getting Linux on this. Keep it as a secondary system if your wife's comfortable on Windows, and then let her play with it or whatever and see if it's something she consider. I mean, I did the same thing with my wife. I've talked about this before. When I bought her that ThinkPad, I kept Windows on one drive. I put another drive in, the initial drive that it came with, the NVMe that it came with, had Windows. Then I put a secondary SSD in there, and I put Linux on it. And I had it booted into that primarily. But I knew if she had to get into something for Windows, I could just walk her through or whatever. She went into it once in 2 years. And I asked her probably a few months after, how do you like your operating system? She goes, oh, it's not Windows. Well, I let her run it for 2 years on that, and then I went and put it on her desktop. She's been on it 4 years, and she's a 21-year veteran in real estate. So the point is sometimes the approach is maybe not putting it on their main system, get their main system corrected, or if they're willing to update it or whatever, and say, hey, I'll take that system you want to discard. I'll throw this on here if you want to play with it, or if you got a laptop, and just play with it at your convenience, see if you like it. Or I'll even just drop a USB in, I'll show them what it looks like, and they'll go, oh yeah, that looks kind of interesting. Maybe I will do that. So again, it's not forcing, but it's just showing them. And again, it's the education. Like you said, you did say a valid point. They're afraid of it. But again, a lot of people have been afraid of Windows 11 too, because it does look so much different and it operates very differently too. So again, I think a lot of it is all on how you approach it. Is the glass half empty or is it half full? It's just your approach, I think, that makes a difference. Obviously, I'm very passionate about this too.
And I like it.
And I want to still have people to have options. That's all.
My experience with moving people to
Linux, I don't want that'll turn them off to it more.
My experience with moving people to Linux can easily be summarized as the road to hell is paved with good intentions.
Yeah.
I
mean, a lot of people will take a look. I've had people look at Linux and have people, tinker with it and stuff, but they always go back to the Windows because it's what they know. It's what they're comfortable with. They don't, it's not that they don't want to learn. It's just that is not their lifestyle, I guess I should say. They would rather have the Windows, have the ease of use. Especially, typically, most of my friends are like, hard, not I won't say hardcore gamers, but they like to play the games, like and stuff like that. And at the time, Linux wasn't exactly I don't know if it is now, but wasn't there for the gaming community, so to speak. I know Steam's on there now and all that kind of stuff, but it's there's a lot of games that you have to run it through like Wine or something like that to play or whatever.
Do you remember, I don't know if maybe you, Nate, do you remember when I said a few years ago, my grandson, he oversaw him. I had him build a computer for
I remember that.
My friend has since passed away this past year, almost 60 years of friendship. And when I put Linux on his system, he absolutely loved it. And when we built that system, I put it on there. And when he developed what we thought was just Parkinson's, I can't remember the name of the disease. It was actually like if you took every neurological disease that's out there and packed it into one, and then put Parkinson's on the top as the frosting. That's what he had. But even with him, as sick as he was, and his trouble with trying to keep hands steady or whatever, he would on the phone. I could walk him through terminal commands and things like that if he needed something, because he did have the interest. Obviously, that was probably the difference too.
Right.
But when I tell people that you have somebody that has a very difficult, uncontrollable disease that can do this. And and my wife again, who 21 years on a computer still has trouble copying files over sometimes in the different folders, do it 4 clicks instead of 1 or 2. It is the one common denominator is you are all correct, and I realize this too, is it's got to be the willingness, desire to learn and want to be there. If somebody shuts you down right away, then okay, that's it. There's your answer. But if somebody seems like they're a little bit curious about it, then you help them along. That's all. I'm not forcing my opinion one way or another. I mean, we do have differences of opinions here or whatever, but to me, I'm not willing to give up on it because I want to be one of those people that helps with the market share growth. That if I can get a cut, like I said, this year it's been 2 people. Maybe next year it'll be 4. I don't know. Maybe it'll be 0. But
like I've mentioned
I
before,
absolutely love this. I love it. So,
like I've mentioned before, Nate, I've got a sister-in-law with a 10-year-old computer. Windows was just so sluggish starting up. It was old. It'd been on there for a long time. But I didn't think it was a viable option to put Windows back on there. Gave her Linux Mint, showed her how to update it. Haven't heard from her since.
That's good.
And she just does the simple things, right? She never heard of Linux. She doesn't even know what it is.
Probably
But
still
as
doesn't.
far as she's concerned, she can hit Firefox. She can browse. I've made her. I just made some links to her logins on banks online and all that. She's good to go, and I haven't heard from her since.
See, that's perfect.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Are you sure you haven't heard from her since because she hates you now, Colin?
Wait, that's what I was
That could
thinking. I'm
be,
like,
yeah.
man, she just bounced, my friend. And
Leave
she was
it
like,
to
man, he
them.
gave me
She
this
ghosted
crap.
you.
I'm out, man.
She won't put a new Windows system. She's not even using it.
All right. Just to confirm, I did see her last night and we spoke, so that's all good.
So which is it? You didn't hear from her, or like? All right, now it's still changing. Now he's just doing damage control, guys.
But it's the whole nah thing that we do. Nah.
Change your wording, Colin. You didn't hear her speak about it again.
Yeah, there was the prepositional phrase about her computer that you forgot to put in there.
Oh, look, you all take me the wrong way.
That's why we love you.
When I got started with Linux, it was more so because I didn't have any money. So I had a machine and I came across a CD, Barnes & Noble. I got one of the magazines there.
Those are the good old days.
I actually installed that. Yeah, this was back in the time of Ubuntu 10.9. I mean, no, 9.10. So it's been quite some while. It was that Karmic Koala edition of Ubuntu. And so I just put the CD in and I ran it in my little PC, in the PC that I had at the time, kind of dual booted it with Windows. And it was just nice to have all these programs available to me that I didn't have to pay for, and have access to, computing, like everybody else, without having to keep paying for this and pay for that. So I'm just really glad to have had that introduction into it, because I was told before, hey, Linux is hard. Don't even waste your time trying. But I found a completely different experience just doing it, following the CD, and then I was off and running. Now, my problem was that I didn't have codecs for my sound, so I had to designate a Linux day, basically. I finally went to the library, got what I needed there. Months later, got the sound set up on my PC, and then, it's been up and running ever since. But it's a journey when you're dealing with Linux. And so if a person's willing to embark on that journey, fine. But if they're not, ain't happening. They're gonna stick with what they know, what they feel comfortable, what they see everybody else doing, and that's what it is pretty much.
Yep. I want to kind of put the chair on the top of this conversation with Guru the Digital. He said about switching people to Linux. He says, I compare switching people to Linux or it like convincing an old man that drinks black coffee to start drinking iced lattes. Some will be open to it, but if they aren't, it'll take some time convincing. So anyway, I thought that was a nice way to talk about that.
Coffee.
And well, or if someone's but I would take that analogy and say, well, if they're having stomach ulcers because of the coffee, there might be a good switch for them. But that's something to think about. So we're out of time. So next week we're going to do a distro exploration, and we're going to do. Thank you, Eris, for this. I think it was, or no, who brought it up?
Jeremy talked about it in YouTube chat.
Okay. Well, we're going to do Bliss OS. And I don't know if you've seen this one, but it is a blissos.org. But in a nutshell, it is essentially Android for your PC. We've seen this before in the past, but this is a new one. It looks pretty slick. And, so if you have like an old system out there you'd like to try this on, you can get it with GApps and without, with like the FOSS as well. I'm going to try it with the GApps because I have some thoughts on what I'd like to see what I can install in there, and it'll be a fun experiment, I think. So Bliss OS, does anybody have any heartburn with that? I don't suspect anybody will. Starting off the new year like a benevolent dictator, so I apologize for that. Maybe
sounds good.
All right, cool. Bliss OS it is, and we'll try
Android for your PC, eh?
Yes. So anything that's
sounds a little.
What?
They used to have an Android operating system, didn't they? So I messed around with that quite a fair bit back in the day.
Yeah, I think it's been there. It's been a kind of a ropey experience or a bit of a rough experience now and again. There was one a while ago. I can't remember what it was called. I tried that one. It just didn't.
Yeah.
I think it was called Android.
No. It was.
Yeah, it's called Android by 86 or something, isn't it? I think it was called. Yeah.
Could have been
something like that.
Sure.
No, I don't know either. Sounds good.
We'll go with that. Anyway, so next week we're going to talk about Bliss OS, and if we run out of things to talk about, we'll have things to talk about because there's always things to talk about because that's what Linux Saloon is like. Things to talk about.
Yeah. Things to talk about.
If you have any suggestions at all, whatever they might be, I talk too much or whatever, send them to suggestions@linuxsaloon.com. And if you have any criticisms as well, feel free to fire them away. I have thick skin. Or if you have any suggestions that are like distributions or applications that we should try, some poll ideas, anything, I will gladly take that at suggestions@linuxsaloon.com. I'm a little behind on my email checking. I got like 600 to go. I don't check it for a few days, and then you fall behind, and then I'm sure there's some emails I just haven't responded to yet, and I'll get to those soon.
Some year.
No, I usually at least monthly get caught up. Like I'll just do like a sprint, a concerted effort to try and get through all the emails, and delete what needs to be deleted and file what needs to be filed. Things like that. All right, it is that time for last call. So if you have anything to talk about, like Eric, I know you do Distro Hoppers Digest. Are you still doing that? Have you done any for this year already?
Yeah, we have one that should be out probably beginning of next week. So it's more or less just a retrospective of what we covered in 2023 and what we're looking forward to in 2024.
Excellent. So distrohoppersdigest.blogspot.com and check that out. Steve, are you doing a show tomorrow?
I am.
Yes, fantastic. I think I missed.
We'll talk about snow. No.
All right, because we'll all be snowed in. I did push my snow. Oh yeah, well actually I actually parked my van back here in Cubicle Labs because I don't want it sitting out because I don't have an attached garage, so I threw it back here. Because it's snowing. It's snowing a lot, and I don't like it. And I don't think the van likes it either, so I felt bad for the van. If you haven't checked out Linux User Space, it's a fantastic podcast with Dan and Leo. I guess they're still on their end of year break. Maybe, I don't know. I should have asked for updates on that, but dropped the ball on that one. So you can check that out, Linux User Space. They do great deep dives into different projects, and they always like your feedback. So send Leo some feedback. Tell him you like his hair or something like that. I'm on a podcast called Linux Out Loud. I have two fantastic co-hosts, Matt and Wendy. We talk about our adventures in Linux, essentially. I don't know if anyone else had anything to talk about. I know, Vince, you've been kind of quiet. I think you made one snarky comment tonight, so I don't know if you had anything else you wanted to say.
Right, Nate, that's why you pay me the big bucks to be here, to make those comments, right?
Well, I pay you per snark, and it's not going to be a very big check this week.
Wow.
No, quality, not quantity, dude.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you for being here.
Yeah, I was going to mention I have a Telegram group by the name of For the Nerds, and I'm also on Discord as well.
Fantastic. And you can find are you Swift 110 everywhere?
Yes.
Someday we need to ask you the origins of that name.
Oh, gladly.
Adam, I don't know if you had anything you want to say. I know you've got this new PC you bought. Is that running Windows or Linux right now? The beast machine of yours.
Yeah, wouldn't you like to know? No,
that's why I asked.
I actually don't have Windows on here right now.
Really?
It's a long story about some audio Rice Krispies, and it was not great. So here I am. Yeah.
Krispies, snap, crackle, pop.
Oh,
Well, awesome. I figured you would have kept Windows on there, but what do I know?
Oh, you don't know, man. You don't know the pain.
I don't.
Vince knows my pain. That's all that matters.
He knows how to deliver the pain too, with his snark. Joe, it was so nice to see you. Way to kick off the new year with your face. That's great.
Thank you. I hope I didn't scare anybody.
Nope, absolutely not. Glad you were here. So thanks for being here, and hopefully you can come back more often. I know, it's probably a bad time of week for you or whatever, but it's nice to have, kind of like having part of the gang back. You know what I mean?
Old faces, yeah. Now this time it's literally old faces, but yeah, it's been a while. So thank you for letting me talk so much. I guess I made up for the time I haven't been here.
Well, you're still a little behind. So anyway, well, thanks for being here. Ron, I don't know if you had anything that you want to plug or to say or anything.
I am too exhausted to even think right now. Too much shoveling.
Gotcha. I understand. I totally got it. So I hope Rust Desk works out for you. If it.
I've been playing with it for a few minutes actually, but I have to run to the office and set up a machine over there.
Okay.
Yeah. Then again, I see what I mean. Brain's not working. I can set it up on two machines locally and give it a shot. Oh yeah.
We could try that too if you really wanted to. And if you go the next step and actually set up like your own server and everything, I'd like to find out if you end up doing that. That'd be really cool.
I would really like to do that. Yes.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Jason, nice to see you again. I know if I had to stalk you a certain period of time before you ended up like deciding to show up here again, but I'm glad you did. I know I got the email from you like last week because like where's the show? Yeah, I took a week off because I needed to, and I still didn't get caught. I figured I was gonna get caught up, but no, I'm not.
Yeah,
Those cats took over the computers.
Well, yeah, I don't know how many cats I had. The last time I was here, I think it might have only been 7, but I'm up to 10 cats now.
They last a long time.
Inside, 10 cats inside, and then I have 5 cats outside I take care of, so a total of 15 cats. So when you guys are talking about all that shoveling and stuff, the only thing I'm shoveling is litter boxes.
So what we call it's actually called turd mining. So you're mining for turds.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got a litter robot. I only have one cat, and I call her Murder Kitty because she murders things, and I like that.
There's a litter box right behind me, right there.
Oh, wow.
On the table. That's for my ginger cat here. She's getting a little old and doesn't like all the other cats, so that's pretty much her box.
I gotcha. I have this litter robot, so she goes in there, she uses it, hops out, and then eventually it like turns and does its thing. Then I just have to dump it maybe once a week or whatever. Yes, I'm no longer a turd miner. I am free of that.
I am definitely a turd miner. 10 of this size litter boxes. So the extra large litter boxes, 10 of them on 3 floors.
That sounds expensive. I'd probably step in one or trip over one at some
We
point
did
in
the
time.
math between my brother and I. We did the math. It's roughly between including the 5 outdoor cats, the food, litter, treats, vet bills and stuff. I mean, it's give and take roughly about $18,000 a year.
Wow.
Later.
Have you
could
ever
have
tried
some
the
amazing raised beds, by the way, in your
what they call
garden.
a horse bedding? The pellets. If you could train them when they're young, you could buy a 40-pound bag for $6 from one of the farm implement places for cats, Jason.
I like I use the lightweight litter. It's easier on me.
But this stuff's biodegradable. It's you get the stuff that they take all the, I guess, whatever I don't know if I forget what they call it. There's something they take out of it so it's safe. And then it just breaks down. You use a sifter box. A lot of those boxes you could buy them with a sifter in it. You just sift it right out, turns into sawdust, you throw it out in your garden.
Yeah, that might work if I had a garden. The only issue is I'd be more about with 10 cats. With the amount of cats I have is smell. So I get the stuff that controls the smell because.
And that does too. Yeah.
10 cats.
Makes sense. Well, good luck with the cats. Colin, so glad he could be here. On the first.
This
week.
is unfair. I never know where I am in this list. Zoom doesn't tell me in what order it's going. It's very unfair.
That's why you look at the YouTube channel.
Well, actually, I went totally out of order, so I'm just making sure I hit everybody.
Oh, was that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know whether to believe that or not.
Well, I have a list, and then I remembered when I was going through the list
it
to go
twice.
things. Yeah. Actually, the problem is I didn't check it twice. And
Hello, Gigi.
You know,
Speaking of orange cats, here she comes. Here she is.
Oh, look at that.
She's a man-eater.
Oh, and he just enjoyed your input so much that he just didn't need to talk to you anymore.
So, Colin,
I was thinking about doing. Well, I have been thinking a while. I just don't have the time lately, but I do want to do a series of videos called probably what am I talking about? A Journey to Linux. And Joe brought up some good points with the fact that when you're saving documents, I never save any documents in Microsoft format, but if I do need to send it to someone, then yes, I'll go in there and save it as, but but that's something I could probably incorporate to these videos once I get them up and running. So that's something really good to think about, because I never really thought about somebody just going ahead on a LibreOffice Calc and then just saving it and sending it to somebody. It's something I really never thought about. So that's a really good point. But yeah, I'm looking at doing that when I got the time. So
excellent. I know that things are kind of tumultuous for you right now with a lot of changes going on, and
well, I've got to move out of this place as well now, and on the 16th of March, so I'm back to moving again. So because the house probably won't be ready, we're praying that it will be, but so I might be down and out again at some point.
So my father once told me that moving 3 times is like burning down once. I don't know if that's true, but
oh yeah, it's bad.
Yeah,
I hate moving, but this being my last move, and then I can retire.
I got
well,
you.
not retire, but retire from moving anyway, because I've had enough of moving. But hopefully I can get around to those videos. It's something I've been wanting to do for a while. So
I got a backlog of uncompleted things too.
Yeah,
so I understand.
The problem is it's probably going to be a series, so I don't want to start it and then have a big gap in between. So it's no good starting something and
right.
It's once I get into the new home, get settled, then I'll be onto it.
I got you.
So,
well, good luck with that, and hopefully you can make it next week, and the week after, and the week after that to Linux Saloon. So.
I will be for next, for another month or so, but we'll see how we go.
Okay.
But I might do a couple of videos maybe on Solus. I might look at that and see how we go.
Swift will love it. So you got an automatic thumbs up right there. See, it hasn't even made yet. Already got just enjoy
awesome.
that thumbs up. Yeah. Well, thank you for being here, Jinda.
No worries.
How's it going, man?
It's going, guys. How's it going on your end, Nate?
Fantastic. I'm a little sleepy right now, but I'm doing great. So glad you could be here, and
Thank you.
Hope try not to get too buried in snow over the next couple days.
It's never happened before, so I've always gotten out.
But it's always the first time.
That's right.
Yeah, last year we had 6 feet, so.
Yeah, this is one of the reasons I moved to Florida from Maine.
Yeah, except
No
you guess you have some flooding going on there right now, don't you? Isn't like a state of emergency going on there? I don't know. In Maine, in Florida.
Nope, not in my area.
Oh, well, I guess it's fine. Cruz, you joined us from, I don't remember where. But thank you for being here. Jamaica.
Oh. You're most welcome. Jamaican warm island.
So probably the warmest of all of us, maybe. No, wait, you might, Colin might be warmer than you right now. I don't know. But anyway, thank you for being here.
Maybe. You're most welcome.
And then, and Terry.
Good to be here, joining everyone.
Yeah, we're always welcome, and I'm glad you can make it for sure. And Terry just left, and I was going to ask him. Maybe I scared him off, but there we go. All right, I have a website called cubicalate.com. I sometimes do things. I did something on the Wayland desktop recently, I think. I can't remember now. I know I released a couple articles, but there's stuff there. I put things on there still. Linux Saloon is part of the Tux Digital Network. Check out more great shows at tuxdigital.com. I want to thank you all for your support, however you do it, being a part of this conversation in both the Zoom meeting and the YouTube stream, as well as for everyone watching the show after the fact. I want to thank everyone involved in making Linux and open source tools possible for us to not only have this conversation, but also to have fun and enjoy our technology. Linux truly puts personal back in a personal computer. That's why we use it, Adam. Thank you for stopping by. Be sure to tip your developers. And please remember to Linux responsibly. Until next time, see yas.
Doodles.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.